Hi, my name's Jess and welcome to my channel. I'm cross.stitch.jess over on Instagram, and hopefully we'll be cross.stitch.jess here on Flosstube as well. Haven't got that far yet. Yeah, welcome. Excuse Alfie, he is determined to come and feature for you all. So I live in Birmingham in the UK with Alfie here, our cockapoo, and my husband, John. I have been cross-stitching most recently for about 4 years. I did a little bit when I was in primary school, and then stopped, not really sure why. But yeah, really got back into it about 4 years ago, and now I stitch pretty much every day. It feels a bit... Do you mind? Can I have some space? Oh, good boy. Yeah, it feels a bit wrong if I don't stitch on a given day. What else? Why am I here, I guess? So a little bit of background. I realised about 2 years ago that I'm autistic, and have realised over the last few months that ADHD is probably playing a factor as well. The reason I mention this, I sometimes struggle a little bit with eye contact. Obviously you're not actually a person, but I can see myself, which is weird. So if I'm like looking around, that's why. It is how I am. If you've got a problem, sorry. Well, no, I'm really not sorry. If you've got a problem, no one's forcing you to watch. Why am I here? So I have decided to start a Flosstube channel. The reason I'd mentioned the autism is it's quite relevant to this. So prior to COVID and lockdown, I think I basically masked a lot. It got me through life, it got me through school, university, and it got me through my job. I work in consulting, so a lot of what I do is doing work behind the scenes and then having to present it back or bring a client along on the journey. What I do is quite technical, so if you just kind of get to the end and show them the results, there's quite often like, well, like that's not what we expected, maybe you've got it wrong. So there's a lot of kind of stakeholder management, bringing people along on the journey, helping them understand what we've done and how we've got to our conclusions. So in the past, I've kind of just done that without really thinking about it. I think over the last couple of years, and particularly since having the realisation that I'm autistic, I've found that a lot harder. I guess working remotely during lockdown perhaps played a factor. A lot of my work now is remote. I'm home probably 95% of the time. But earlier this week I had a face-to-face client presentation to a room full of people I'd never met, and I found it really hard. I know that I know my stuff, I know that our work is good, I know all of the technical details, but I just had that moment where I knew I was talking too fast, I couldn't make myself slow down, I kept thinking of things I'd forgotten and trying to jam them in the wrong place. Like, the client loved it in the end. Once we got to the sort of more discussion part, it went really well, I think. But it just highlighted to me that I have perhaps neglected those presenting skills, I suppose. And I figured, I was sat here last night watching some Flosstube and figured, why not give this a go? It's not exactly presenting face to face, but it's presenting to a hypothetical audience. So yeah, I'm doing this for me to work on those skills. If you happen to be here and happen to enjoy seeing what I'm showing, then awesome, welcome. I'm really happy that you're here. Yeah, I'm gonna get stuck into it. This is take 2 because take 1 I waffled at myself for about 15 minutes and then realised my camera had stopped recording because it did not have enough storage. So trying to remember what I've said then, what I've said now, not repeating myself. I'll try and remember things like to tell you what fabric it's on, all that kind of thing. So I'm going to jump straight in with the WIP braid. In terms of going forwards, I'm not going to have a set schedule. I don't have a plan for how often I'm going to do this. I've got a couple of ideas of other things I could do videos about, so starting with the WIP braid now, I've got some finishes from this year that I could show. I'm happy if people want. I don't know if there's any interest, but I'd be happy to do like a ask me anything about autism, ADHD, late diagnosis, all that kind of thing. I'm a firm believer that if people had talked about it a bit more before I'd realised, I perhaps would have realised sooner, and not hit the sort of burnout phase that I did. So yeah, let me know if there's any of those that sound interesting. If not, I'll just keep talking about what I feel like talking about, and we'll see where it goes. So first project, I've got about 15, I think. I'll try and keep count as we go, but we'll see. First one lives in this project bag that I made. This was one of my first. I really love the fabric, and I love the funky little sort of galaxy zip. Unfortunately, the place I buy my zips from has stopped selling them, so can't get these ones anymore. But yeah, nice black and white one to go with my first black and white project. So this is Gaming by Charlie Darling. I'm trying to figure out the lighting in here. Gaming by Charlie Darling, charted by GeckoRouge. I'm part of their gold club, so I put in a bit of money each month, and then I think it's now every 12 months I get back a voucher, and you also get a discount code, so it helps them spread out their income. It's a nice way to sort of save up rather than having to pay in one go, because GeckoRouge only do kits, they don't do PDFs. You can get a PDF with the kit, but you can't just buy it on its own. So I got this with my first voucher. I think it was summer last year, so probably about 12 months ago now that I've started this. And this is where I'm up to. So, gosh, try and fit it all in. You'll be able to see on here, I'm typically an extreme cross-country stitcher. You can see I've done all of this. I don't think it's actually black, I think it's a very dark blue. But I did all of that first and then have started at the top here filling in. This project's been in timeout recently. For May, I used a spinner to choose projects and worked on this one for the first time this year, and decided to put it on some scroll frame bars. The problem with that being that I put it this way up, and normally I've worked on it this way. So I typically stitch in hand, and I will always put my fabric landscape and then roll from the side, so that I've got something to hold, and then I can stitch that way around. Completely forgot that turning it around to put it on scroll frame bars would mean it was the wrong way around, and I did a whole day's worth of stitches the wrong way around. So I've rocked that out and haven't touched it since, but it's I think this is only about 13 colours, but you can really see in here it gives a really cool sort of shading effect, and the background for this is intended to be stitched fully in white. I'm not doing that, not a chance. So I've done like about, I think, a 5 or 6 stitch border around the other colours in white, and we'll be leaving the rest just because, I don't know, white stitching, I know a lot of people say this, it just always looks messy to me. I can't get it to look nice and neat and smooth, so the less of that the better. So that is project number 1. Sorry for the rustling while I pop this away. Okay, gonna do the risky thing and just make a pile and deal with the rest of that later. What next? So this one, this lives in a little project bag that Rachel from Talking Dog Stitcher and Talking Dog Stitchery made me. We did a round robin together earlier in the year with CXC Tan, monogamous cross stitcher, here on YouTube, and Rosie X Stitches. So as we sent them round, I had made, I I think it was literally my first ever project bag for mine to live in, and then as others came around I made each of them a project bag, and Rachel offered to do it as an exchange, so she made me this one. It's a lovely bee fabric, and it's a perfect size for little projects like this. So this one is the current stitch along from Claire, the steady thread. So each of these little vases is 1 week. My little blackwork designs, and I chose the colour scheme to look like terracotta pots, obviously green leaves and then purple flowers to keep it sort of the secondary colours. You can see towards the bottom here a lot of these don't have their flowers. I've fallen a bit behind on this one. I am stitching it from stash and was finding it quite overwhelming to pick colours each week and try and not pick the same ones from my stash. I should have just kept a list or something, but I basically waited until I was about 10-12 weeks behind, and then I'll be off. Pulled out all of the terracotta colours from my stash, gave them to my husband and said pick me 12, gave him like the terracotta theme, and he picked them, and I did all of the pots up to date at that point. And then I did the same with the greens, and that was a week later. You can see there's 1 week here that's just got the greenery, and then the intent was to do the same with the purples, but that was about 2 months ago now. Yikes. So that will be the plan. At some point I just need to grab out all of my purple flosses and yeah, have him. I don't think I have that many purples, to be honest, so it might just be all of them go on, and I'll probably, where I can, catch up with the purple and then go back to the oranges and the browns, and sort of cycle through the 3 colours, catching up one by one. But I really love this. I love blackwork. I find it really satisfying. I don't love backstitch over the top of cross stitch. I find that quite hard to keep track of. But yeah, blackwork just does it for my brain. I really like the repeating patterns. Yeah, I like finding little repeats and repeating them. So that's project number 2. Number 3, what are we going for? I'm picking random bags here. I don't even know what's in some of these. Oh, okay. So this is one of my older projects, and it's actually one that I've decided to UFO. It seems a waste to just bin it, and it's got a little hard copy pattern book in it. So this is an embroidery sampler, which came as part of a magazine. I actually didn't buy the magazine when it first came out. I saw someone else post a finish of this online and really loved it. I love the colours. I love the rainbow. And I was relatively new as a cross stitcher at the time, and I thought, let's give embroidery a go as well. I think I asked in a Facebook group, and someone very kindly said they would never use it, and they bought the magazine. It came as a freebie with Love Embroidery. I don't know if it says which, it doesn't say which issue it came with, so sorry, it might be a challenge to track down. But yeah, someone very kindly offered to post this to me for free, which was really generous of them. I'm really grateful. And I made a start. So you can see here I've traced the outlines of the circles and the patterns, and I've done, I think I'm about halfway in terms of the number of sections. What really broke me on this one, let me move that a little bit so it's a bit easier to see, was this red section. So this is brick stitch, and I think I'm used to cross stitch, which obviously fills up the space relatively quickly, I suppose, and a lot of these other stitches were very quick to fill the space as well. This one was like so slow and tedious, and I just completely lost interest. I I did a little bit more during Mania. This came up on my spinner, so I think I did these two, or I did one and started outlining the next one. I just wasn't enjoying it. I've since done a couple of other embroidery projects and I've enjoyed them, but I've enjoyed them as small one-off things. So my original intent of having this as an actual sampler where I could be like, oh, that's what that stitch looks like, I'll use that in this, whatever I'm working on, just doesn't really apply anymore. I'd love to have this finishing up on the wall just because it's a pretty rainbow, but I've got other things that I'd rather be working on. So this is going to be UFO'd, and to pass on the kindness of the person who gifted me the book, I am going to give this away. I don't expect many people to watch this, so if you're interested in it, just pop in the comments rainbow, I guess. And if anyone wants it, I will pull a name and either include it in a future video if I do one soon, or I might just pull a name and contact that person directly. I'm more than happy to send this if you want to finish it, I guess. Up to you, let me know. It won't come with threads, but I have in the book, there is, let's see if I can show this, I've penciled in there some DMC colours, because this is originally charted for Anchor and I mostly have DMC. So yeah, happy to give away the book. If you'd like it, I will also send you my WIP if you wanted to continue that. So that, I guess, isn't WIP number 3. It's a thing that was in my WIP box that probably won't be for long. Next, let's have another small bag, but chunky fabric. Oh, small bag, very big project. This is, I think this might actually be the project bag that I sent that round robin in. I think this was literally my first ever, which I'm really happy with. This is a pattern that I got from Etsy, where she allows you to make them. You can sell them as long as you credit her. I am drawing a complete blank on, I know the pattern is called the Hemingway pouch, but I can't think, is it Centre Street Quilts, maybe? I'll attempt to pop it here, and down in the description. It's a really easy pattern. I've really enjoyed making them. I do now sell some of these. There's, I think, 2 currently in stock in my highlights on Instagram, but I am working on some more. So, very small project bag, very big project. This is, I think, my biggest WIP. I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to fit it in the screen. Oh, there we go. So, this is Beyond the Horizon. I do this in a sensible order. Let's show you what it's going to look like first. So this is a pattern that I got from Unconventional cross-stitch. There we go. That is what it's going to look like. So I typically love like the bright colours, the vibrant colours. Use my voice, one sec. So the bright, vibrant colours, there we go, we're back. Bright, vibrant colours, something a bit modern. I don't typically enjoy sort of pastel colours, or I don't know, like the little cottage in the woods. Like, they're gorgeous, like they look beautiful stitched, they're just not really my vibe. So this is my biggest project to date. It's 122,000 stitches and I think I'm about 45%. As you can see, I've done this extreme cross country, so the 939 there, I think there were about 45,000 stitches of it. And in November last year, I set myself the goal of finishing the 939 by the end of the year. So I had about 4 or 5 weeks. I think I did about 14,000 stitches in 5 weeks and then didn't touch it for 6 months because I just burnt myself out so badly on it. But I mean, the sun up here is absolutely stunning. Like, you wouldn't believe how many different shades of yellow and orange and red are in there. But it's just so effective. I think I really want and ought to get this back out soon. I set myself at the start of the year for each of the WIPs that I bought into this year. I set myself an individual goal for each one. For some of them, it was finish it, get it fully finished, get it framed, get it gifted or on the wall or whatever the intended destination for it was. For others, so for this one, for example, the goal was to get it to 50%. And I left that very vague in terms of 50% of the total stitches. I was hoping to aim for 50% of the colours finished. So, as I said, extreme cross country, probably starting with some of the smaller colours and working up. Knowing that this is at 45%, I think I'm aiming for the 50% of stitches rather than 50% of colours. But I really need to just, I mean, I say I stitch extreme cross country. I've done that for the blue. I think in May this came up on my Mania spinner and I just picked the nose of the spaceship there in the middle and just focused on filling in some colours there. So I might just go back to regular sort of cross country, pick an area and take the colour as far as it will go and then change it up. My floss storage, I've swapped over to floss drops. I have Annie's keepers. My stitching spot is right here and my hanging thread storage is just at the end of the sofa. So it's now super easy. I think before I did extreme cross country, because the faffing with like bobbins and God knows what else was just did my head in. Whereas now it's just as easy to get a thread of a different colour as it is the same. So it lends itself a little bit more to focusing on an area rather than having one colour out and being able to just keep using up the bits that were loose. I didn't say any of the information. This is on 18 count pre-gridded Aida, just plain white. I'm stitching it to 2 strands, and I think pretty much everything I'm stitching is DMC. I'm working towards a master set so that I can just buy a pattern and go. Not there yet, but working on it. I'm not going to bother trying to put that back in the bag. That can be a future me problem. Let's go for another small one. So, cool. This one, I'm going to have to look up the information for this one because I cannot remember what the name is. I just call it my pink project. So this is, it's called Sampler number 136. And I want to say it's from something like 2x2 stitching on Etsy. This is just, it was sold as a black and white sampler. And I have decided to do it tone on tone. So I'm stitching it in 2 different shades of pink on some very pink fabric. I started this last month, almost exactly a month ago, because I realised that I was going to be turning 33 1/3, aka a third of a century, and I figured that maybe justified celebrating. I decided I was going to start 3 different projects in one day, and I made myself a third of a cake. So I made one big cake, chopped it in thirds and then stacked them. That was an absolute disaster. I do not recommend it if you want a pretty looking cake. It self-destructed. I will try and insert a picture for comedy value because my mum absolutely creased at this cake falling apart and me trying to rescue it and just making it so much worse. It was delicious, but it just looked horrendous. But yeah, this is one of the 3 that I started. I've already finished one of them, which was Pardon the Weeds. So you can see there these sort of stalks, I guess, stems are in a darker purple. I'm doing this in 915 and 917 DMC. And the fabric, this one is from KayluxFabrics. It's a gorgeous big piece. I don't think she's selling anymore, but I think I got this in one of her online auctions she used to do on Facebook. But yeah, there's that one, Sampler 136, and I will add the name of the pattern shop on Etsy below. Oh, it's a nice simple one for travel because it's just got 2 colours. I don't typically keep floss in a project bag, just because I'd rather have them in my master set and just stitch straight from there. But this is quite a nice one if I'm travelling. It's only got the 2 colours to pop in. It's a nice easy one to take with. I've lost count already. 1, 2, 3. So that was number 4. Number 5, let's see what's in the tin of doom. This is a pretty tin that I had from a while ago that I used for projects that are kind of on the naughty step. I've only recently gotten into project bags, so for a long time this was like all of my small projects lived in here together. And in fairness, there is actually only one project left in here. So there's a piece of fabric that needs to go back in my stash. I had 100 Days of Tiny from the Steady Thread on this. I want to say it's either 28 or 32 count, but I'm not a huge even weave and linen person. I pretty much entirely stitch on aida. I sometimes will use a sewing method, so doing that on even weave just pulls apart the fabric and your stitches just slide in between the strands of the fabric. So this was quite early on, again with me sort of trying out different things. I loved the pattern. I didn't love my fabric choice, didn't love my thread choice, and I kept seeing pictures of other people stitching them and it looked amazing, and I just felt really disheartened that I felt like I'd made really poor choices. So this has been in this tin for over a year, and I kind of decided it's not bringing me joy. I couldn't even remember what colour thread I had used, to be honest. So that got frogged. That was one of my recent UFOs. Another one while we're on UFOing. This is, I'm going to show you the mock-up of this one because I think I do have that here. So this is one that I converted myself online. I am a massive pink fan. It's my happy place. It just makes me feel zen. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling stressed, if I've done too much peopling and I'm feeling a bit burnt out, I will happily just put on my big headphones or sit in the car and just blast pink at myself, and it kind of just resets my brain. So I wanted to stitch something. I went to see her this year in Cardiff back in June with some friends, and I had the slightly unrealistic idea that I was going to stitch this and somehow get it to her and gift it. That didn't happen. Surprise, surprise, because it's still here and it's not finished. So I started this, I think in December I did 12 starts of Christmas, so I started 12 projects throughout the course of December. I converted this online and it's my first time doing that, and you'll be able to see up here it's just a bit chunky. It doesn't transition smoothly from one colour to the next. It doesn't have, I think it's called dithering, where you sort of mix the colours together at the edge where 2 blocks meet to sort of make it look a bit smoother. It just doesn't have that. And I just didn't want to put hours and hours into stitching this and have it be a disappointing finished product. So I'm going to UFO this. I may well come back to the idea of this in future, but I think I would use a different pattern converter that gives you options like dithering and a little bit more control over what the finished outcome will look like. So for now, this one is being UFO'd, and yeah, probably just gonna go in the bin if I'm honest. One thing I will say actually, while I've got this one, this very snazzy rainbow edging, I am very lucky to know Sophie from Turtle Bay Stitches. She this year has taken over Pink Scissors fabric in Bridgend, and I went down to visit her. In fact, when I went down to see Pink a couple of days later, I went and spent the day with her, and she has an overlocker that you can essentially rent by the hour with this snazzy rainbow thread. And me being me took my entire project box and my entire fabric stash, and I think I broke it about 3 times. She had to keep coming and rethreading it and fixing it for me, but I managed to edge pretty much all of my fabric. So if you're in the area, or if you're planning a trip down there or a holiday or anything, highly recommend going in. She has gorgeous fabrics, she makes gorgeous project bags, she is a gorgeous human being. Go see her. Right, the third and final project in the Tin of Doom, which probably needs upgrading to its own project bag at some point. This is my D&D sampler. Let me put this one on the board. This is my D&D stitch along. This is from, there we go, Taylor and Cromwell. This was a SAL, I want to say 2 years ago now, so 2022? Maybe 2021? I don't know, I'm clearly very far behind. I actually extended this one, so the way it worked, there were four different sizes of rooms, and the first time that a room came up on the schedule, you actually got sent all of the possible creatures, fills, designs that could go in that size of room, and the idea was that you rolled a dice. So I can't remember exactly how many, but I think there were maybe 8 or 6. I think there were a couple that only had 4. The idea was you could basically randomise what was in your dungeon. I had this gorgeous piece of fabric. It's not, the green isn't really showing up, but it's kind of a mottled green and grey. And I really liked the sort of stone cave with sort of dripping moss and slime on the walls kind of vibe that it gave. But I wanted to make the most of the fabric. I think the design should have stopped about here, and I kind of just carried on adding rooms to make the most. I found this one really challenging. It's one of my first ever stitch alongs, and I think what I've learned is that I perhaps need to be more open to adjusting things to making them my own. Some of these rooms at the bottom, so this ghost for example, I think you can literally see the shadow of where the back stitch is really chunky. I can't remember what the recommended fabric size was, but this is 18 count, and because it's hand dyed it's probably even closer to a 20 count, but the recommendation was to stitch it 2 strands for cross stitch and 2 strands for back stitch, and I just found it really chunky and really hard to work with and really slow. And there are a lot of colours in this. I mean, the effect is awesome, but like like this little altar room for example is kind of what I'd have expected. It was about maybe 8 colours and maybe another 3 or 4 colours of back stitch. Some of the rooms, there's like a library, a potions room. The potions room is, I think, the same size actually as this. So it's not huge, I think it's about 20 by 30 stitches. And it had about 25 colours of cross stitch and then another like 15 odd colours of back stitch. Which just, I don't know, I just never have the desire to work on something that nitty gritty. I think also I struggle to get these ones into Pattern Keeper, which is what I use for pretty much everything. So I guess keeping track of what colour's gone where is quite challenging. But maybe I need to revisit getting some of these into Pattern Keeper and see if that will help. I'm doing this for my husband. He's a massive D&D nerd, and I quite liked for this, I don't know how well it shows up, but this is a little D20 and it says welcome to the dungeon. I think I changed the phrasing, but basically I changed the colours of this. I handed him his entire bag of dice, which is an insane, no one needs that many dice. I handed him the whole bowl, bag, whatever, and asked him to pick his favourite, and I then picked threads to match. And the one he picked was quite sort of shimmery, so for the teal and for the orange I picked 2 different colours and sort of stitched 1 strand of each to give a bit of a variegated effect. So I really loved doing that. That was really enjoyable. What I found is up here I started doing 1 strand for the back stitch. I think I'd still done 2 strands for the main stitching, the cross stitch, and then from the dragon upwards I've started doing just 1 strand for the back stitch and 1 for the cross stitch. And I've also started changing some of the back stitch colours. I think down here you can see they kind of they pick up a little bit better on camera actually than they do in real life, but for some of the skin tone back stitching it's actually really hard to make out, so it kind of felt a little bit futile that I was struggling to do it and it didn't have the effect that I was hoping for. So up here I've started being a little bit more bold with the back stitch colours, making them 1 or 2 shades darker so that they pop a little bit more, and I think that kind of works in my head for the, I don't know, like I sort of see D&D and all that sort of fantasy style thing, like my mental picture of it is a little bit cartoony, with the sort of bold outlines, and I've really enjoyed these couple. They've stitched up nicely, so I just need to push through the lots of colours to crack on with this. My goal for this one for this year was to do 1 room per month, and I think I did that for January, February and March, and then it's just kind of fallen off a bit of a cliff and I've stitched on it occasionally. So yeah, I do want to crack on with this one. I would love to get this done and be able to gift it to him for Christmas. I just need to, yeah, psych myself up and crack on with it. Cool. That's number 5. I don't know. I might put like a little counter in the corner or something. WIP count. I don't know where that came from here. Cool. So that's the tin. You know what? I'm going to leave it out of the tin and find it its own project bag. Maybe that will help. What next? Okay, let's go for this one next. This is my gorgeous Turtle Bay project bag. We were at a retreat together in February and I was very fortunate. Her stack of bags got passed around the room and I was the first one to get my hands on them. So I got dibs on this gorgeous rainbow hearts, and it comes with a lovely little charm, little butterfly, dragonfly, and get everything out. It has this gorgeous purple gold sort of shimmery, I think it's called grunge, the fabric design. Sorry if that's wrong, Sophie. But yeah, absolutely love this and it's perfect for this project. So this is, I have a cover picture for once. This is the, oh that's really bad glare, Twisted Band Sampler from Northern Expressions Needlework. I started this one having seen Rachel from Talking Dog Stitchery show it on her Flosstube in her WIP parade, and it's got the specialty stitches, so the bands alternate. There'll be like a band of cross stitch and then a band of specialty stitches and then a band of cross stitch going all the way down. So I started this was meant to be my birthday start this year. Things went a bit haywire. Getting my fabric turned out to be a little bit more well, it took longer than I expected. It got here eventually, and I started it at the end of March instead of on my birthday, but it was in the right month, so we'll say that's fine. I won't show you the whole fabric because it's huge. This is my work on it so far. So I have chosen my own colours for this. So I'm on band 3, and I've done 3 colours. I partly started stitching this because of seeing Rachel's. I partly started to join in with Tan and Amy, so that's the monogamous cross stitcher and Sew Make and Create. They were hosting a stitch along, Stitch the Rainbow SAL, and yeah, it just worked really nicely that I had my eye on this. What I've done though is I've decided to do it in like pastel shades, and that was partly inspired by Sherry. So she had her Quaker Sisters where she had sort of a pale stitching on a dark grey and then darker grey stitching on a pale fabric. And John was here when I was watching that Flosstube, and it's one of the few times where I've seen something and been like, I need something like that. I love that design choice. So my intent was to do this one pastel rainbow on this dark fabric from Chromatic Alchemy, which I want to say was called Enigma. I've probably got that written down somewhere, but not to hand. And then so Northern Expression Needleworks has a second design called Rainbow Band Sampler, which is similar, but I think goes the other way in terms of the diagonal stripes. And I was going to do that one in like dark rainbow colours on a light fabric and frame them together. Now, I really love this idea. I have learned that I really struggle with making a decision and sticking to it. So I've probably gone through about 8 different colour palettes for this, and I still haven't got one that I like. I mean, I'm telling myself that it helped me build up my stash so that I have those colours for future, but it's getting a bit ridiculous really. Yeah, I'm definitely a perfectionist and have really struggled with that. You can see up here I've got some little swatches of the colours so that I can see how they look together. This is like my 4th attempt at swatching. I've had like various other versions. You can see a little bit of one left over there. Where in fact, do you know what, there's a huge one. But yeah, where I've started doing swatches, decided I didn't like them, couldn't be bothered to unpick them, couldn't remember which colour was which to know which to unpick. So I've started again with labelling them. So get it to focus. So the colours I've used so far are 3855, 745 and 3078. I think what I've decided to do is these are all like slightly peachy, so going from dark to light, and I think I'm then going to do yellows from light to dark for three colours, and then greens is where I then have gotten lost again. I've picked out the 3 yellows, so I might crack on and do the yellows. But yeah, the greens I've then really struggled with. I have spent far too many hours in different thread shops, needlework shops, just looking at threads, moving them around, changing my mind on ones that I thought I was certain on. So I figure if I crack on and get the yellows done, I've at least locked those 3 in and I can't keep going back and changing my mind on those. I might branch out and start looking at other brands of thread. I know, for example, Anchor will have slightly different colours available. So I might start mixing brands on this just to get the effect that I want. But I love this. I also, one of the other things that made me want to start this was around the same time, so during March, Sherry had just got her hands on 56 count for the first time and was talking about doing a Be Not a Dunce SAL with the sort of theme of like try new things, like learn new things. You can't learn if you don't try and fail. So I've perhaps not lived up to that ethic. I think I did all 3 of these bands within like 2 weeks of starting it, and then I've not touched it for about 4 months. So I really want to crack on with this one and try and push past that perfectionism and just do it because I love it. I've seen, I met a lovely lady called Louise at the Squirrelly Stitches last month, and she was stitching this but was sort of at the other end of it, so she was probably about 80-90% done. And it was stunning, and I really want to stitch all the specialty stitches. I want to learn all the new things. If anyone out there knows of someone who I can pay to come up with an 18 colour pastel rainbow for me, at this point I will happily pay someone to just tell me which colours to use, so that I can skip the self-doubt part, but failing that I need to just crack on and do it. Yeah. I feel like this is the way with everyone doing a WIP parade. It makes you sit there and go, oh, I really want to work on this, I really want to work on that. But that's one that I really don't want to sort of let it languish. I've really enjoyed what I've done so far. Cool. Let's have another small one. So this one is, find the little cutout. So this one was a gift that I got from my mother-in-law for Christmas, I think 2 years ago. It is a printed cross stitch, which I've not really done much of, but I really enjoy this. I've taken it on holiday, taken it on planes, that kind of thing. It's nice that you don't have to have a piece of paper or a tablet or whatever. Obviously, bit hard to tell what's been stitched. I think all of my stitching is on this half, so all round here I've kind of been working around this band on the outside, so I'm sort of down here. Different colours have come different, some are further down than others. I really like the design of this. As I said before, I'm a bright poppy colours kind of person, so I really like how bold all the colours are. I'll show you the threads. They're really nice and bright. So yeah, I enjoy working on this one. I do tend to only pull it out when I have reason to avoid having patterns everywhere, when I want to keep it nice and simple. But I'm going on a couple of trips over the next couple of months, so I feel like this one will be yeah, making an appearance then. I will say the needle that this came with was horrendous. It was like actually blunt, like not just the very tip had been blunted, it was like a completely flat end, which was a nightmare to work with. And it being printed, like the fabric is always stiffer, I find, with printed projects. And I think this is either 14 or 11 count, and I typically now stitch on 18 or 20, so it feels really chunky. The threads they're fine, but they're not proper DMC, and the pattern wants you to stitch it with 3 threads, which again I don't. This is literally the only project I've done that on, so it's not my default stitching style, but I do enjoy it, and it will be really nice when it's done. So that is number 7, 6, 8, somewhere around there. Should have known that wasn't going to be something I could keep up with. Right, next let's go for this one. So this is another GeckoRouge. So this is the box that they come in. You can choose whether to have them in like a plastic bag, a polythene bag thing, or in this gorgeous gift box. For my first ones, I figured I'd go for the shiny gift boxes. And this is B. Sorry, trying to figure out the light in here, I'm not doing very well. This is B. The artwork is by Lorna Lane, and as I said, it's charted by GeckoRouge. I think this is a really popular one. It's one of their bestsellers. tons of people are stitching this. I bought the kit to stitch it 2/1 18 count, and between when I chose the kit and when I started stitching, I'd kind of fallen in love with 20 count. So I've actually stitched this 1/1 on 20 count, and I've done just the B itself, which is very handily outlined almost entirely in black. So I stitched just the B on some hand-dyed fabric for a friend for her birthday. I've got that finished. I just need to frame it and actually give it to her. Sorry, Becca, I know it was your birthday like a hot minute ago now, but I promise it's on its way. And yeah, now I'm going back and stitching the whole thing for me in much slower time. And this has landed really nicely actually in terms of timing. So Emma from Emma Stitching, sorry Emma, I'll put it below, and Joe from Belushi Stitches are hosting a SAL for this, with the hashtag OM, like EM for Emma, Belushi OMB SAL. Again, sorry, I'll put it below. You can see it's kind of creased here. That's why I tried to soften up this 20 count. It's pre-gridded, and I think the grey lines means it's swag art, but it's really like crunchy, and I think I thought if I scrunched it up a bunch it would soften it, but I've ended up putting it on scroll bars so it doesn't matter, and I've just got a really little start on this one. My goal for this one for this year was just to try out parking. You can see I've got a couple of parked threads there. Spoiler alert, I hated it. I don't really see the point, if you're counting across to where the next stitch is, of not just doing the next stitch. I don't see the point in unthreading your needle at that point, just to have to rethread it to do that stitch later. So I tried, it's not for me. So yeah, that was my goal for that one for this year. The goal for the smaller version was to finish it, which I've done. So I'm not in a rush to stitch that for myself. It's just going to be a when I fancy it. When I don't know, when I'm working on some other projects with maybe dark colours, it'll be nice to come back and do some of the nice bright pinks and oranges and yellows on that one. So that will be I'll get when I get there kind of thing. Cool. My little pile of unbagged WIPs is starting to get a bit precarious. What else have we got? Let's have another small one. So this one is in a nudge. This one's another little project bag that I made. The little toucans and the nice bright zip. This is on Pattern Keeper, which will hopefully tell me what the designer was. Who the designer was even. View PDF. So this is it's Mandala Well Behaved Women by Teely TG Designs. This is what it will look like. I think I'm going to change the text on this. It's really stitch heavy. I might just find a backstitch alternative maybe. But regardless, I'd want to change it so that it fits in a circle. I think history at the bottom here would be really awkward if I was putting it in a hoop, which is how I tend to finish small projects like this. And this is where I'm up to. So this is 1/1 on 28 count. It was one of my first experiments with even weave. It's just plain white even weave rather than linen. I enjoyed this, but I think I was working on this while I was waiting for the GeckoRouge kits to arrive, and when they did show up, this just kind of immediately got put aside and didn't get worked on for ages. I think the stitcher I am now has a lot more knowledge than the stitcher I was then, so I started working on this again in May as part of my Mania spinner. plan, and found it a lot more enjoyable because I'd sort of learned how to work with the warp and the weft of the fabric so that my stitches didn't keep slipping in between them. I think it helped that I put it in an urge. I think I said before, I typically stitch in hand is my default. Even weave, beads, what else? Those are probably the two things that would prompt me to put fabric into a hoop. These nudge hoops have made a big difference. I think before I tried to use the sort of cheap and cheerful bamboo ones that are sort of more for display than for actual stitching, I find. But I'd found them not very good. So these are much better. They hold the fabric nice and tight. And they basically stopped me from doing the sewing method on even weave, which, as I said, kind of pulls the threads of the fabric apart. But the stitches on this are absolutely teeny tiny, but the colours are gorgeous and they blend really nicely. So I will carry on with this. I don't have any set goal. I think my goal for this at the start of the year was some stitches, which was basically my fallback goal for things that I'd not worked on for a while, with the intent that either I do some stitches and remember how much I enjoyed it, or I do some stitches and be like, no, I still hate this. And I've had a couple like that I've either UFO'd and gifted away, or UFO'd and just binned. Well, not binned, but you get the idea. Removed from my WIP list, basically. So I've done some stitches. I've realised that I did actually quite enjoy this. It does take quite a lot of concentration because I have to pay attention to which, if I'm doing, say, top left to bottom right, I have to really think about whether I come up in the bottom right and go down in the top left, or the other way around, depending on the way that the fabric weave goes, and where I'm travelling from, where I'm travelling to with my next stitch. So it's a little bit more thinky, and obviously it's 28 counts, so it's quite small. But I do enjoy working on this. I am looking forward to it being done. So I want to stay in the WIP pile and be worked on when I feel like it, I guess. That's how most of my stitching works. Right, we are getting there. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 5 to go. So another big one. So this is another big project that's in a very small bag. I got this one from my first retreat, so Floss Friends, last year, I think, from Andrea. I'm not sure what her business name is, but this cute little butterfly with the sparkly, what's the word? Sparkly plastic front. Can't think what the word is. So in this project bag is this ginormous piece of fabric. I don't know why I keep doing this, folding a really big piece of fabric really small to put in a very small project bag. But so this fabric is 20 count even weave, which I didn't know was a thing 2 months ago. I got this from a D-stash table, but I have tracked down the, I think this colour's actually been recently discontinued, but there is, I'm gonna find it, one sec. So willowfabrics.com online. Their prices are in pounds, so I assume that they're UK based. But yeah, I've tracked down this fabric on there. It's the fabric style is called 20 count even weave Balana, and the colour that I've got here is deep orange. I'm pretty sure this was cut from a roll, because the original piece I had was twice as wide as this. It was ginormous. I was very lucky to get it on a D-stash table for a very good price. And on here I am stitching Vivsta's Ottoman Tiles sampler. So you can see I've got one little tile finished, and I'm working on the outlines in the next one. This was another one of my 3 starts when I was a third of a century old. And since starting it, I have cut this fabric in half and sent half of it to Soph. who said it looked gorgeous and that she would love to stitch it with me. So the fabric was actually big enough to stitch the entire pattern twice. So she's now got half of the fabric and is going to make a start on this sometime soon. I'm rearranging the tiles. I don't know how much of this pattern I'm going to stitch because it is ginormous, and this is again 1/1 on even weave, which takes brain power. So what I've done is I've started off by picking some of my favourite tiles from the overall pattern, so that if I do run out of steam, like if I get this to be sort of 4x4 or something, I can just go, do you know what, that's enough, I'm gonna cut that piece of fabric out and leave it at that. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge where I pick random tiles. It's not going to look like the pattern, but something that I've realised, I don't know, maybe that, yeah, something that I've realised with a lot of my stitching, not very good at sticking to the pattern. So with that previous one where I'm planning to change the text to make it a circle, this one where I'm moving around the tiles, the twisted band sampler where I've chosen my own colours, the gaming one at the very start where I'm not going to stitch all of the white background. Like, I don't have anything against sticking to the design, but for some reason I just really struggle to do it. Yeah, and I mean, it's a hobby, I'm doing it for fun. Like, I'd rather do it my way and enjoy it than try and stick to an arbitrary rule that you have to stitch it the way the pattern is and end up not liking my own hobby. Yeah, the colours on this are gorgeous though, and it's only 10 colours, and I think Soph and I were both saying about picking the closest orange to the fabric, because there are some oranges, not in this tile, but there are some oranges in the rest of the pattern, and maybe not stitching that colour and leaving the fabric to show through. Because of the way the tiles fit together, like some of the fabric will show at the edge anyway, but I just thought that would be a nice way of tying the fabric and the pattern together. Cool. Not many to go. Let's have my littlest one. I've just realised as well one of those isn't mine, it's John's. So this one is my first Mill Hill. I started this, well, I restarted it on Monday. I had started it at some point in the past and didn't like how the stitches were looking, so I've restarted this one. I bought this kit from Hawkins Hobbies at the Chatelaine retreat. I went for just a day, and I bought this to stitch for my nan. I stitched her a hedgehog. It was one of my first ever cross stitches. Wow, my first ones of getting back into the hobby. Because when I was small, when I used to go and stay at their house, they'd have hedgehogs on their back patio, and we'd sit in the dark in the spare bedroom, because they had a bungalow, and I'd sit on the other side of the glass in the patio doors and watch the hedgehogs on the patio. So I stitched that for her, and I saw this one and thought it would be a really cute addition. Like I say, I've never done a Mill Hill. I'll come back to the idea of beading in a minute. But yeah, gonna stitch this for her birthday. So I feel like everyone has had a Mill Hill at some point. I feel like I'm late to this party, but it comes with all the threads and the beads that you need. This one also comes with a little magnet, you can see in there, so that you can turn it into a little fridge magnet, and it also has a tiny little treasure, which is the little sort of autumn leaf in this little plastic box. This thread organizer is one that I think I got with a magazine, so I've just used that. I've just penciled the numbers on it and sorted the threads out because they don't come pre-sorted. That is why I had to frog what I'd started, because I did get 2 of the colours the wrong way around, and when I then looked at the model stitch picture, realised that I'd done it the wrong way around. So fortunately it was my first colour, so it was easy to pick out and redo. So, like I say, I only have 1 day of stitching on this. I did this in a hotel room. Oh god, that's not gonna work. Does that work? There we go. So this is just the acorn in the middle, or the start of the acorn. It's my first time on perforated paper. I'm not loving it. I've done some plastic canvas stitching before and I didn't love that either. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna see it through and finish this one at least on the paper. I do have another Mill Hill kit that I bought from Rachel, Talking Dog Stitchery, and I'm probably gonna swap out the paper for some fabric for that one, just to make it a bit more enjoyable. But I'm excited to get this done. My nan's birthday's the end of November, so I've got a couple of months still. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how that comes along. It's a nice little travel stitch. I'm going to very briefly show you, because it's here and because I mistakenly thought it was a WIP. I, for Christmas a couple of years ago, got my husband a little kit, well, put together a kit for him. This is Cross Stitch Mini, I think is the designer. Must be. And this is composition on in I don't know, I do not speak any Spanish. Composition in red. So it's one of the mini masterpiece style series. I got this so he could, I don't know, have a go at my hobby with me, and he's done the black outlines and is now just starting to fill it back in, fill in each block. So that's just a little cross stitch kit. I'll be honest, I don't think I sold him on the hobby, so that might be his only cross stitch, but it's there if he ever wants it. Okay, penultimate one. Okay, this is my embroidery sampler. So I came across this idea probably about 2 years ago, and I've been following several people who do embroidery journals. There's lots of different ways that people do it. Some will do almost like a clock layout, and they'll have a wedge for each month of the year that they'll fill in with icons to represent things that have happened for them that month. I, again, struggle to just do the obvious or what everyone else is doing. So I instead decided, I think I saw on one person's design actually, they'd gone on like a road trip. So they'd done their icons for that week, but they'd done like a dotted line between them to show the road trip, the journey. And I really like that idea of them being sort of sequential rather than just having 30 odd icons in a wedge. So I decided to I stitched the date in the middle and did it all as one continuous line of stitching, and then it's kind of hard to see, but I then swapped the black to a dark blue and had a different colour for each month to show the sort of chain of events. So there's a whole mix of icons on here. I'm not going to talk through all of them. I think part of doing this for me was to help with my mental health. I've had really, the term I usually use is wobbly mental health the last few years. Some of that is the processing of realising that I'm autistic and how that's affected my life, and all of those light bulb moments of that thing that happened when I was 6 suddenly make sense. And figuring out how to make adjustments for myself and how to advocate for myself. Some of it has just been, I guess, adjacent, but I've often struggled with friendships, and I think I had a really rough couple of years in that sense, running up to and then during COVID. So yeah, that's been a bit of a journey, and this was a little bit of an exercise in, I guess, gratitude journaling, sitting down at the end of each day. And I think this cookie is a really good example. I think that was the first time I really struggled to think of something that had happened. And then I kind of sat there and thought, like, John had popped to the shop, he brought home some nice cookies, and we sat after dinner and watched some TV together and ate yummy cookies. So, like, it didn't have to be big things. Some of them were big things, but some weren't. I've tried to include finishes. I've included one of my favourites, just because of how pristine it was this little wardrobe. This was a random afternoon where I decided that it was time for our wardrobe. So we've got like a modular wardrobe unit in our bedroom, and it was time that it was getting sorted out. So John came downstairs in the middle of the afternoon, and I was sat surrounded by pieces of wardrobes, and there were clothes everywhere. There were boxes of stuff that had been jammed in there everywhere. But he, yeah, our house is a townhouse, so it's on 3 floors. He was upstairs, and he came down the stairs and basically went, I'll come back later, because the hallway was full of wardrobe pieces. But yeah, so this, I got as far as March. I was keeping notes. I started to feel like it was a chore. So in January I stitched almost every day. In February, I think my brain had the dopamine of, you got to the end of January, you did it, and my brain sort of went, okay, that's done then, I don't need to do it anymore. So in February it became more and more sporadic. I was sort of stitching every 4 or 5 days, maybe every week. And then in March I think I stitched on it twice, and I did 2 weeks worth at once, and that was when it started to feel like a chore. So I've stopped working on it. I continued to keep notes. I've got a little diary in the project bag, which is another one I made with some leftover fabric. I made one of these for my niece for her birthday. But I have a little diary that I was keeping notes in probably until mid-May, at which point I just stopped. But this isn't a UFO. Let's see if I can find the picture. So I came across an idea online where someone had done something quite similar, where they'd gotten partway through a year and run out of steam. And so this is, no, I've taken a screenshot and cut off the credit. I will track down who did this because it's an amazing idea and I want to give them credit. But you can see they've basically done sort of 5 months worth of filling in the wedges. And then for the rest of the year, instead of pushing themselves or leaving it as a UFO, they've found they basically combined it with the idea of a temperature chart, and they've just done these radiating lines for each day to show the temperatures for the days that they didn't stitch an icon. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I really enjoyed what I did do. I don't at this point in time have any desire to get back into doing it, and I don't really want to go through 3 months worth of my life and try and retrospectively think of what happened. That kind of wasn't the point. But my mental health is now in a much better place, so I don't feel like I necessarily need that boost each day of making myself sit and find something positive, even if the day was a really rough one. So that's my plan for this. I think I will probably wait until the end of the year to have all of the temperatures at once, because again, extreme cross-country stitcher, if I can just do each colour once and fill in all the days in that colour, that would probably be the way forwards. So, last project, I think. I have no idea what number we're on. I will track that down retrospectively. The last project is the big one. Any of you who have met me at retreats, at Stitchy Days, anyone who follows me on Instagram will have seen this. It's been my labour of love for the last, I started it in February, so the last sort of 6 months now. I'm going to show you the picture first of the design. This is tangled fire, tangled oh god, I don't even know what it's called now. Tangled Fire from Ink Circles. So that's the cover page, and that is what the design is intended to look like. So it's a very sort of Celtic knot style pattern. It's only in 10 colours. I originally bought this for the round robin that I mentioned earlier. We'd all agreed to do ink circles, so I'd gone looking through, found some patterns I liked that one the most and bought it, and then promptly realised that it's like 4 times the size of what everyone else picked. So the others had all picked sort of, I think, 4,000 to 6,000 stitch patterns. This one's 22,000. So in the interest of fairness, I put a pin in it and bought a different pattern instead, which I'm glad I did. I love how it's come out. I'll maybe show that if I do a finished parade at some point. But this one, I'd really psyched myself up for working on this. I really love the design. And around the same time, I went to a Stitchy Day, and Rosie, so Tan and a lady called Kate from here in Birmingham had organised a Stitchy Day just up the road from me. And I happened to be sat next to Rosie from Rosie X Stitches, and she was starting I think it was is it Shannon Christine pattern, like a koi pond with beads. And I'm not really a fancy lady person. They're gorgeous, amazing, just I can't see myself ever wanting. I'm not a very girly girl. The idea of stitching a big flowy dress, it's just not my thing. That's fine. But I think I'd always dismissed the idea of using beads because I thought they only really came on fancy ladies. So seeing Rosie start this gorgeous pattern and be stitching with these stunning beads, it got in my head. And again, it's interesting because 2 years ago I wouldn't have been able to articulate this, but this is very much my brain doing an autism moment. I decided I wanted a project with beads, and instead of going the normal route that people would go in that case and doing a Mill Hill, I was like, no, I want a bigger one than that. I want a proper beaded project. But I don't like the fancy lady, so I looked at all the Shannon Christine designs. I found a couple of other designers that do, say Chatelaine for example. Looked through all of their designs, nothing was really calling to me. I asked in a Facebook group I'm in, Snarky and Modern Cross-Stitch and Embroidery, and basically asked, are there any other designers? Are there people I'm missing? Are there places I should be looking for this? And a couple of the comments linked together in my brain. So someone said, have you looked at ink circles? Because they tend to be monochromatic, so you could stitch the whole thing in one colour, or you could, much like people do with long dogs, you could pick out certain elements. I think someone also suggested long dogs as an option, because you just pick one colour of beads the same as you'd pick one colour of thread. And someone else shared a link, I'll see if I can find it and put it in the description, but someone shared a link where someone had stitched an ink circles, I think it was cirque to cirque, entirely in beads, and again it was stunning. And that then clicked in my brain with the fact that I had this pattern in my stash and I had been really excited to stitch it. And so this happened. I don't really know how else to say it. So this is, as I said, Tangled Fire by Ink Circles, and this is about 19,000 beads so far. I've got about 3,000 beads to go. The camera really doesn't do it justice. I have spent an inordinate amount of time, there, I kind of got it, trying to take photos of this that sort of accurately show how stunning it is. The different sparkles are just gorgeous. So I think I used all of the DMC conversion for this. So each colour of bead has a matching DMC colour, which is what the pattern recommends. I've chosen the beads myself, mostly online. The rest I picked, I'm quite fortunate that I live about 40 minutes away from Spellbound Beads, so I was able to go in person and pick the last few. And I'm now, I think, 87% of the way through this as of last night. So this project has become really important to me. I actually got the last couple of colours of beads with some money that my nan gave me for my birthday earlier in the year. My nan, every time I speak to her, she doesn't always have the best memory at the moment, but she will always ask me about my embroidery and my cross stitch, and the fact that I bought some of the beads from this with money from her makes it all the more special. So I recently went to visit and took this with me and was able to show her, which was really, really nice. So I'm almost there, and the nice thing with the top or the last of this, these lines that I've already done are the bit that needed counting, and you can kind of see here it's just a case of outlining those lines now in the respective sort of partner colours. So there's a couple of motifs. There's these sort of red flame motifs that need to go in here and here, but other than that it's just outlining. So I am aiming to get this done in the next week or so. It's really satisfying, easy stitching now. I can do it with Flosstube on or TV or whatever. But I love the effect, the sort of hot coals in the middle and the sort of flickering flames around the outside. And I think when this is done, I am probably going to shell out to get it done framed professionally, because I want to do it justice. And it's probably going to go in our spare bedroom or my office. We've got a bit of a space theme in there, I guess. We've got like a really nice dark blue wall and some NASA space tourism posters. So I quite like the idea of this being a bit of a sort of sun vibe. So that's going to go up in there so I can enjoy seeing it every day. I think that's everything. I have no idea how many that was. I'm just trying to roll this up so it doesn't get damaged. Oh, sorry for the clatter there. So what else? That is all my WIPs. I have made a huge mess. So going forwards, as I said before, I think I don't have a plan. I don't have a schedule. I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to give monthly updates or weekly updates. You might not see me again until the end of the year, and it might be another WIP parade. But that is what it is. If there's anything I've missed, like I've just in retrospect realised that I didn't tell you, this is on 14 count. I did try and do it on 20 count, but the beads were too big. 14 count. I think it's just a raw aida. I bought it in a shop, so I don't have like a packet or anything. It was bought off a roll, and the beads are all size 11/0 Miyuki Delicas. If anyone's interested in the colours or anything like that, let me know. Likewise, for anything else I've shown, if I forgot to say the fabric or the threads or anything and you want to know, let me know. And I will, yeah, I'm new to this, so I will try and respond and answer any questions, but we'll see how that goes. In terms of upcoming plans for my stitching, I'm going to finish Tangled Fire. I want to finish the Squirrelly, the little molehill. That is what he's called, right? Yeah, Squirrelly at the bottom here. And then it's going to be bank holiday in about 10 days here in the UK. John goes away pretty much every bank holiday. He goes camping. He does LARP, and yeah, I am stitching on a secret project for him. I I do one every time he goes away for a weekend. They're nice, quick, sort of 2 or 3 day stitches. So I'm hoping to get those 2 finishes in beforehand so I can work on that over the weekend. In terms of other upcoming starts, I have, table knocking, have this little kit that I won in a raffle back in April at the Ladybird retreat. So I want to start that. Beth from Stitch with Beth on Instagram and Beth Chadwick here on YouTube. She does a lot of crochet, so she has very kindly offered to help me figure out how to do this. And then I am 100% going to have to ask her to show me where she got her pattern for her little dinosaurs, because she showed me them at the weekend and they're adorable, and I 100% need to make myself a little stegosaurus. So that is one plan. I don't know when I'm going to start that. Sometime eventually. Another little one. So I went to a stitchy day this Sunday and was very lucky to win a prize in the raffle, which was a £20 voucher for Betty Stitch Kit, which is my local needle workshop. It's about 30 minutes away. I had already done a fair amount of shopping from her stand, her table that day, but the £20 voucher prompted me to go back and have another look at some of the kits. As you've probably seen, I don't, for the most part, stitch from kits. I'm more of a PDF pattern and then kit it up myself person. But I'd missed seeing this one on my first go around, and my nan loves Highland cows. So I'm going to finish the squirrel for her birthday and then stitch this one for her for Christmas. I've not had a kit like this before actually, but all of these trees and the sort of horizon line in the background is actually printed on the Aida. So it's just the cows, and I don't know how well it will show up, but these sort of snowy flakes, that's what's stitched. And there is some sparkle in there, some sparkly thread. So that is another upcoming plan. And then last but definitely not least, this is going to be a beast. This is going to be my new biggest project. I have had my eye on this for about 2 years, and I made the mistake of not going for it. And as soon as I saw that it had been discontinued, you know when your stomach sinks and you know you've made a mistake and you should have gone for it. So this is Gamer Nouveau. The artwork is by Medusa Dollmaker, and this version is charted by GeckoRouge. They no longer sell this kit. Medusa Dollmaker now sells the PDFs online. I only have this GeckoRouge version. I was very, very fortunate. I reached out online where I'd seen people finish it, and very, very kindly Emily from Rosbell, I think her account is, I'll pop it on the screen, but she super, super kindly gifted me the paper pattern that she was finished with. So eternal appreciation and gratitude, because yeah, that stomach sinking feeling is not nice. So this, I'm going to be kitting it up. They don't give you the DMC numbers with the kit, but Emily gifted me the scraps of thread from the project, and I spent a very long time in Hobbycraft colour matching to figure out what I needed. So this is going to be a start. I don't know when. It is huge. I am very conscious that I already have a couple of big full coverages, so I don't know when this is going to be a start, but it is soon. I've got the thread colour sorted, so I just need to order the threads that I don't have and get myself some fabric. I think I'm going to do this on 20 count, 1/1. John and I stood there for quite a long time with my fabric chopping. Sorry for the wobbling table. Alfie has just put his ball under the sofa. Okay, we're back. The ball has been rescued. Yeah, so we stood there with my fabric cutting board, laying out rulers to show what size it would be on different counts, based on where I'm hoping to eventually put it. But we then came to the conclusion that this is going to be a long-term project. This is, I don't actually know. So this is 200,000 stitches, so it is my biggest project by quite a long way. My next biggest would be the Beyond the Horizon, which is 122,000. So it's going to be a long-term project. It's probably going to take me, at a rough guess, somewhere between 5 and 10 years. It's not going to be a quick one, and who even knows if we will still be in this house then. So I've picked a wall where this is eventually going to go. We may no longer have that wall. So we tried to go for like a sensible size. So 20 count was what I landed on. I wanted to stitch it 1/1 on not even weave, so it was either going to be 20 or 22 count, and I think I wanted it to be a little bit bigger, so 20 it is. The one downside with that, I want to do it on pre-gridded fabric. It's my go-to for big projects. I don't love the piece of pre-gridded 20 count that I already have, so I need to reconcile in my own brain whether that's worth it or whether it's going to be a waste of money because I'm going to get a couple of hundred stitches in and absolutely hate it. But I don't have a backup plan, so that's TBC. Might not start it for a while. I want to wait. I don't know, it'll feel right. At some point I'll wake up and be like, today's the day. Hopefully by that point I will have gotten organised and picked fabric. I think that's everything. Just gonna ferret back out. I've made so much mess here, guys. I'll come back to this. So the one giveaway that I think I said I'd do during that is this little book. So if you like this, comment rainbow. UK only, please, just because of the postage. Yeah, just the word rainbow, and I'll pick someone, and yeah, we'll reach out. I'll either include it in a future video if one of those happens sometime soon, or I will try and get in touch with you to let you know you've won it. Don't say giveaway or free or win in the comments, but yeah, hopefully that can go to someone who can use it and I can pass on the kindness that someone had sent it to me. I think that's everything. Like I said, no set plan. Options, I guess, of future content. I could do a bit of a finishes parade. I've actually got quite a few finishes this year. I've focused mostly on finishing my small projects. So I've got a little folder of those. I could do a bit of a craft stash tour, show you my floss organisation and that kind of thing. I've also got some finishes around the house that I could show. Happy to do a bit of an autism, ADHD, late diagnosis, ask me anything if people are interested. If not, no worries. And yeah, in the meantime, I'm gonna keep stitching, keep sharing on Instagram, and yeah, hopefully see you all again soon. Bye.